Hi viewers, and welcome back into Wayne's World for episode 6 of our F1 Manager 22 save with the Mercedes-Benz team. I hope you've been enjoying this series so far, because I've certainly been enjoying making it. Last time out saw us take our first trip to Miami, and although we didn't get the race win, we didn't get a podium, there's a lot to be positive about with the upgrades and the changes to the car. There were also a lot of crashes, some virtual safety cars, and a load of incidents, so be sure to go and check that one out ahead of coming back to watching this episode and the race today in Spain. I do just want to say a massive thank you for all of the support recently. This is the first F1 Manager type content that we've ever done on the channel, and you guys are enjoying it, it seems, from the comments, from the likes. I do really appreciate it. If you are new around here, consider subscribing to the channel, and if you are enjoying Formula 1 Manager 22, let me know in the comments down below. How's your save going? Who are you? What season are you in? Because obviously I'm pushing through at the minute, bringing you daily uploads on this save, but I'm sure a load of you have already fast forwarded and you're on to season 3, season 4. How are your saves looking? But for today, with Mercedes-Benz, let's head on to our emails first up, because we've got two key parts which have been manufactured and created. The first one is the side pods. I'm going to hide my camera just for a second and we'll go into the car discussion. So the first one then is the side pods. We've managed to design 4 of those. So let's go to the car setup. These are just sort of spares. We've currently got the best side pods on there, and we're currently working on a little bit more. But the big one for this episode is the chassis. The chassis has been completed, the design of it. So what we're going to do is manufacture, normal is 8 days and the race isn't for 11, so I'm not going to rush anything. We're going to do 4 of those as actually we want both of them. We want both of them for Spain, so we will do rushed on 4, and then we'll be able to get 2 of them for Spain, so that's not a problem. So we'll confirm that. Here we go. The underfloor as well has been completed, so big upgrades for this car, all in the short space of time. If we have a look at the underfloor, it's currently being manufactured as is. So if we take a look in the warehouse, we've got 2 new versions of the underfloor already, which does give us a considerable improvement in a lot of areas. When you look at the high speed in dirty cornering, we get a lot, and our top speed goes up by a little bit, but the high speed cornering is up quite a bit as well. So we're going to add those once those all have been manufactured, and then we'll take a look and see how it compares to the likes of Red Bull and Ferrari. And finally, the suspension has been designed as well, so we'll look to get that manufactured if it hasn't been already. Yeah, there we go. So we want 2, we want 2, and the Spanish Grand Prix is in 8 days, so we need to rush those as well, and then we'll build 2 spare parts. So we're gonna rush them because I want all of these parts together on the car heading into Spain. All right, so if we head to the warehouse, then we'll install both of the new chassis onto both of these cars. And also, what was the other one? The underfloor hasn't been completed yet. The new suspension has been. So we're going to install suspension, the newest version of the suspension, onto the cars, which give us a nice little upgrade there. And the other part was the side pods, which has already been done. The underfloor has not come through yet. Was there anything else that we needed to improve? No, not yet. So new chassis, new side pods, and new suspension, all for the Spanish race. If we take a look then at the car analysis, and let's change a look at Ferrari. We want to compare how we are getting on in comparison to Ferrari. So they're still much faster in the top speed, but we have closed that gap down quite a bit. The acceleration, they are clear as well. The low speed corners, the medium speed corners, at the minute, we have nothing on them apart from engine cooling, which is a positive because engine cooling was a negative of our cars so far. So slowly but surely, we are getting there. What do we want to focus on? We do need to keep focusing, I think, on the speed because we're very slow in a straight line. So I think we might have to look at maybe another suspension because the brake cooling isn't the best. And the top speed needs to go up as well. So let's take a look at the suspension. Actually, no, if we're going to go for top speed, we are going to go for a rear wing, I think. So there's a new, we're in a new cycle in terms of our hours and the type of wind tunnel time that we've got. So we're going to push this up to 20 hours and we're going to use 1.5 of our testing time hours remaining, and we're going to go for a rear wing because we do need speed. As you saw maybe in our previous race against the Red Bull in Miami, we were very, very easy to overtake, so that is a little bit tricky. And then what we're going to do with the car is we're going to push things up sort of all the way towards the right, and we'll see just what we can do rather than leaving things unbalanced. Everything will get a major sort of boost in their areas, but it's not having a negative effect too much. Everything overall is going up rather than going down, so that's a positive. We'll try that. I've not done anything like that before, so we're going to develop that. We've got 9 available engineers, so the rear wing is going to take a while, at least 2 months. So we are going to put 5 engineers on there. Do we rush it? No, that's very expensive. That is very expensive, and we've spent a lot of cost cap on rushing already. But if we go intense, then we'll be able to find out if... No, we don't need to go intense. We'll go with normal. We'll stick to normal, and we'll continue. And that's going to be that part. And then we're also going to put a few engineers to research the chassis for next year. So wind tunnel hours, we are going to go down to 25. We'll put 11 there. And then we'll go to 1, and we've got 1.7 left. And then, yeah, research benefit, the drag reduction, the engine cooling, and the airflow as well. So we're going to do that with our research on the chassis, because obviously there's regulation changes next year, and that needs to be our primary concern moving forward. And we're going to go all the way up to the right again. Development set and engineer. We're going to put 3 engineers on that. And then we're going to put another... Do we need to design any more parts? I might save 1 engineer for a part just in case. We're going to research the side pods as well with 1 engineer. And then we're going to take that down to 1 because we do want to potentially do 1 more part. And then we're going to do 10 hours there. And then research focus again, all the way up to the right-hand side. It gives it a little bit more of a boost. And then engineers, we're going to just use 1. We'll confirm that. And that should be another project started. So we've got 1 engineer left. But let's continue on then towards Spain.
Formula One has cranked up the heat over Barcelona. The first Grand Prix held here was won by Nigel Mansell after a wheel-to-wheel battle with Ayrton Senna. But who will follow in his footsteps this weekend? Long straights and medium speed turns dominate here, but there's something else to watch out for at Barcelona. The air currents are strong and unpredictable, and they'll be giving aerodynamic components a real run for their money this weekend. We might still be early in the season, but that doesn't mean we can sit back and relax. Everything is up for grabs, and nothing is certain at this stage. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Formula One.
This is Formula One indeed, Crofty. You are right. Looking at the weather forecast, then Friday should be fine, so we should get some decent practice in. Some moderate rain on Saturday. Hopefully that comes in practice and not in qualifying, because I've had my struggles with rain over qualifying over the course of this season. Sunday, there is partly cloudy, but no rain forecast for Sunday, which again might be a bit disappointing for us, because that is what gave us our first and only race win of the season. Qualifying standards then, reach Q3 was a qualifying target, fastest lap was a qualifying target, and the qualifying position streak and the finish position streak, those are our targets as well. I completely forgot to do the sponsorship part, so that's my bad. I will get less money. Reports wise, circuit information, if we have a look at the expected strategies, it's a 2-stop race, so that's the first time really that we've been suggested as a 2-stop. Do we go aggressive and maybe go soft, medium, soft? Let's see how quick we are. Obviously, it's our first weekend with upgrades. I'm hoping that there's no upgrades on the Red Bull and the Ferrari. But last time in Miami, we were about half a second behind the Red Bull of Sergio Perez throughout practice and throughout qualifying. So I'm hoping that we'll maybe be able to close that gap on Sergio Perez and maybe Carlos Sainz as well. And Charles Leclerc then, our championship leader, goes off at turn 4. Oh, that's almost a big shunt. Does well to keep it out of the wall. Right then, first lot of feedback from George Russell then. And yeah, I thought we were getting a hang of this setup thing, but we're back in with 3 bads, a great, and a good. 49% confident. So we've got a template there to try and work with. The oversteer being bad and the straights being bad. So rear wing, we need to lower quite a bit then, which should be fine. And then the front wing, we probably need to increase just a little bit. Something like that. And then the braking stability being good, we'll do something like that. Because the traction being great, we need to get it towards more of the optimal side of things. So let's do something like that. One thing I did forget to change though before this practice session was the engine, and it's currently down at 48%, where I don't think it's too much of an issue for this race. It should be okay, but we do definitely need to remember to change it last time out. Remember, we've already used 1 gearbox of our allocated amount. We will need to change the engine at some stage and then probably go back to a used one a little bit later on in the season. So the wear is coming. We just need to be wary, no pun intended, that we're going to potentially get some penalties later on in the season. Right, the start of practice 2 then, or well, we're in the middle of our running of practice 2. We've got 94% set up for George Russell. 2 optimals, 2 greats, and a good. So we'll try to keep that as close as is. Currently sitting in P5 with Lewis Hamilton and P7 with George Russell, as a car has apparently retired. There's a virtual safety car.
Look at this. Here's George Russell.
Oh, George Russell there with a bit of an incident in practice 2. At the end of second practice then, Lewis Hamilton 94%, 4 optimals and a good. We'll try to play around with that braking stability a little bit to try and get that to at least a great. Oh, here we go. Charles Leclerc behind Lewis Hamilton. Oh, Lewis Hamilton's run wide and he's come back on and he's tagged Charles Leclerc. All right, we've got damage with Lewis Hamilton. Yep. We're going to ignore it for now, but aerodynamics. Front wing has minor damage. We might have to change that then. Oh, so we're nearly there with George Russell. We've got a 97%. Lewis Hamilton, 99%. First thing to note then is that qualifying is wet. It's currently raining. It's a decent amount of rain.
Rain is just starting.
And most of the drivers are going to head out on the intermediates. We're sending out George Russell now. Hopefully he can get a decent lap in with these intermediate tires, because yeah, as I've said before, we have messed around a little bit with our releases in the rain, and we need both drivers to go through to Q2 at the very, very least. Lewis Hamilton's going to head out now as well. We'll do our first runs on the intermediate tyres and we'll keep a hold of the rain. We've just checked. It's heavy rainfall, so maybe we should have gone out on the wets. We should have learned our lesson there from Australia, guys. While it is heavy raining, because we are going to have to put in a couple of laps, I think. We probably should have waited for the rain to get a little bit heavier there. And George Russell will go out shortly. Let's take a look at the graph. At the minute, it seems as though the rain is probably only going to get worse. So we might get a little bit unlucky here. We might be out in Q1 again. The difficulty is this time, the rain isn't coming during the race. Let's send out George Russell as well. Hopefully we've sent out Lewis Hamilton in some clear track. The wet tyres should be okay now. We just need to put in a quick enough lap to be out of the bottom 5. Right, Lewis Hamilton then coming towards the final couple of turns is down in P13. He needs a good lap here, but he's been held up quite a bit by Esteban Ocon. Can we improve enough to get out of Q1? He's on a personal best and he's gone to P3. So that's okay. George Russell then, he's on the verge of being knocked out. Has he done a better lap? Yes, he has, and he's up to P5, and that should be okay to get both of us in. Pierre Gasly is the one in trouble now. He's managed to do a better lap himself. Latifi crosses the line. He's been knocked out. Sebastian Vettel, he's been knocked out. No, he's in P15. Alex Albon is knocked out. Lance Stroll is knocked out. And now Sebastian Vettel has been knocked out. So the bottom 5 in Q1, Yuki Tsunoda, Seb Vettel, Alex Albon, Lance Stroll, and Nicholas Latifi. Right, so start of Q2 then, and we are currently out with both Lewis Hamilton and George Russell in some clean air, and it's dry, so both sets of drivers have put on a set of soft tires. Sergio Perez currently out, the only Red Bull, one of the only, I think, championship leading cars out on the track, so it'll be interesting to see how fast we can go with Lewis Hamilton by comparison. Sets time 3/10 of a second off of Sergio Perez, so that's not too bad. End of Q2 then, the checkered flag has come down. Lewis Hamilton's in P4, George Russell's in P5, but we are on our final flying laps. Lewis Hamilton set a personal best first sector, but not a very good second sector. Someone's locked up in sector 3. Hopefully it's not one of our guys. It seems to be okay as Lewis Hamilton comes around the final couple of corners. Who is that? That's a Red Bull. Is that Max Verstappen? No, that's Sergio Perez. Let's take a look at what's happened there, because he's come back onto the circuit right in front of Lewis Hamilton. He's gone wide. And he's nearly crashed into the Ferrari on his way back. That was very dangerous by Sergio Perez. Very, very dangerous, but we should get a little bit of a slipstream from him with Lewis Hamilton currently down in P5. Do we improve as we cross the line? No, we don't. We stay in P5. George Russell has done not a personal best middle sector either, but we should be okay. We're ahead of Valtteri Bottas, we're ahead of Fernando Alonso, Kevin Magnussen and Ocon. Yeah, we're fine. We're into Q3. Right, so we've just seen on the mini-map that in 4 minutes, there is a 100% chance of rain. So we're sending Lewis Hamilton and George Russell both out straight away. Let's have a look at the weather chart. If we can set a decent lap as quickly as possible, the rain seems to come in about 5-10 minutes or so. And then it ends towards the end of the session. So if we can get a decent lap out, with both of our drivers, we're sending George Russell out now as well, then maybe we can spring a surprise because the rain might affect the track a little bit. Lewis Hamilton then comes across the start-finish line and he's heading back to the garage at 118.9. Max Verstappen, though, is currently behind and he's going to set his first time of a 118.4. So half a second down, Max Verstappen from Lewis Hamilton. George Russell, he's out on track. Let's see what he can do with his first time in this qualifying session. He crosses the line and it is a 6 tenths of a second off of Max Verstappen. He set a, I've just realized we sent them out on used tires. I probably should have sent them out on fresh because I didn't pay too much attention on the weather at first. We did set them out with used tires, so that might be a little bit of a problem. 119.093 for George Russell. Right, we've caught up with Valtteri Bottas then coming towards the end of his lap. Is he just going to come straight into the pits? No, he's going to stay out and finish his time on the soft tires, but the track is way too damp for soft tires. This is incredible. He crosses the line and he's down in P6 behind Kevin Magnussen. Another person who hasn't yet to set a time and they're out on soft tires at the minute is Sergio Perez. This is a surprise from the Red Bull mechanics and engineers. They're normally well on top of their strategy. He is tiptoeing around then the final parts of the circuit. You see just how slowly he's going, and Sergio Perez, we might be able to qualify in front of him here if the rain stays for the remainder of the session. Sergio Perez crosses the line. He's in P6 ahead of Valtteri Bottas. They could have made a huge mistake here. Charles Leclerc is out on his flying laps. This follow Fernando Alonso, who crosses the line. He's behind Valtteri Bottas in provisional P8. Behind him on the road is Esteban Ocon. And just look how slow they're tiptoeing around on the soft tires. There must be no grip whatsoever. We've put fresh softs on for the end of this session just in case, as Esteban Ocon is P9 and Charles Leclerc, unless there's some sort of miracle here, he must be at best P8 because the rain has continued to come down during his whole lap. He crosses the line now and Charles Leclerc's up to P6. That's a decent lap considering, but that just shows you how much speed is in that Ferrari. Okay, so the other teams have sent their drivers out, but they've sent them out on wet tires or intermediate tires in the case of Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen. Surely they're not going to set a faster time. We're qualifying P3 and P4 here. We must be, surely. There's no way that they send a faster time. Track conditions have changed to wet. Going out early has been fantastic. Let's fast forward. That's the end of the session. We've missed out we aren't going to send our guys back again. But I don't see there's any point in sending them out. There's only going to be slower times, surely. Let's take a look at Valtteri Bottas first. He's on the intermediate tyres. There is surely no... Let's take a look at the sectors. This is his personal best sector on the intermediate. There's no way that he can be going faster than us on softs. There's absolutely no way we've misjudged this one. Surely not. As he comes around the final corner then, Valtteri Bottas, currently 26 seconds off the lead. Where does he go on the timesheet? He crosses the line and he goes up into P5. Still way off our time. We've done brilliantly to head out there. Coming up to Sergio Perez. He's crossing the line next. Behind Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen has got pole position. There's no one that can overtake his time now. Carlos Sainz crosses the line as well. Sergio Perez, he jumps up into P5 as well. We've outqualified Sergio Perez and championship leader Charles Leclerc, who is out on wet tyres at the minute. He is currently down in P10. The mistake to not send the drivers out at the beginning of the session has come back to cost as Charles Leclerc goes across the line. He's P5. Sergio Perez is behind Esteban Ocon and Kevin Magnussen. What a brilliant qualifying performance there from K-Mag, as Lewis Hamilton and George Russell are up in P3 and P4. We've outqualified ourselves today. We are very, very happy with that.
But there's no surprises in that. It's race day.
We saw a reasonable push from Mercedes in qualifying, and they'll have plenty of opportunities here to achieve a great result. It was a pleasure to watch Red Bull's excellent performance during qualifying. Their drivers will now be looking ahead to the race itself and hoping to capitalize. And the clouds today look very ominous, which means that teams may have to contend with rain at some point during the race.
And there are going to be some tough calls to make in Catalonia today. So let's see who makes the best ones for the Spanish Grand Prix.
Right, so we're heading into the race weekend and all of the rain seems to be gone. The rain helped us out in qualifying and we're up in P3 and P4 with both of our drivers. Taking a look at the strategies then, look at George Russell's first. I want to split the strategies again with the drivers. I think we've got the pace to finish P5 and P6 again easily. But what I want to do is split the strategies and have one go short and one go long. So what I think I'm going to do, George Russell's a little bit more aggressive, I think at this stage than Lewis Hamilton. So with George, we're going to go with the soft, medium, soft, and we are absolutely going to fly on the tires. The aim is basically get George Russell out and try to attack the front two, who I'm hoping won't start on soft tires, and then get Lewis Hamilton in clean air when the front three have come in and put in some decent laps. The hard tire doesn't seem to fall off as quickly. So if we attack with Lewis there, aggressive on the mediums, and then attack on the softs, we might even do something like that. Attack standard on the softs, because I'm hoping that the people around us don't start on softs. So that's what I think we're going to do. Lewis on hards, George on softs, George to hopefully jump Lewis at the start and attack both Sainz and Perez, or sorry, Sainz and Verstappen. Lewis to go long, stay in front of the likes of Leclerc and Perez. And what we'll do is we will go long, get into clean air, and then we'll attack a little bit more in the clean air while everyone else is pitting around us, and then we can come in for the mediums and then softs at the end for a little bit of freshness. So let's start the race. Again, I think we've got the pace for P5 and P6. So let's try something different to try and get the race win.
It's a bit of a cloudy day for the race, but the atmosphere as ever is electric. And here we've got Lewis Hamilton. They've managed a third-place start for this race, but can they turn it into a win? And here we can see Russell. A top 10 position today, but will they be able to capitalise on it? Everything's been building to this. This is it. It's the Spanish Grand Prix. And It's lights out and away we go.
Right, first of all, we're going to deploy some ERS with George Russell. We want to try and get him past Lewis Hamilton as quickly as possible. Let's ride on board with George Russell. Can he get it down the inside of Lewis Hamilton? He's going to look for the race lead into turn 1. He gets by Lewis. Let him go, Lewis. Don't fight this. Don't fight this. We don't need you to be fighting this. Let George go. He's on the easier strategy at the minute. Right, George Russell is up into P3 and Lewis is in P4. Let's take a look at the tires then. Lewis Hamilton is the only one on hard, so far that is okay. For some reason it's not happened with the tires, so we're going on attack with Lewis on the hards because we're absolutely going to ruin these tires. And George Russell then, who is currently deploying some ERS, is behind Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen, who are both on the medium tires. If we can get the jump on both of these guys, let's deploy some overtake down this back straight. Can we get the pace to overtake a Ferrari on the track? No, not just yet. So we're going to neutralize once again, and we're going to probably wait for the DRS to strike. Now, the problem is, if Sainz has DRS on Max Verstappen, we could be in a little bit of trouble. Behind George then is Lewis Hamilton. We're just going to kill the tires as much as we can. He's currently sitting ahead of Kevin Magnussen, who's jumped Charles Leclerc, and who's on the soft tires, and Sergio Perez, who is on the medium. So as all of a sudden Lewis Hamilton takes a look down the inside of George Russell. I don't know if George Russell's had a bad lap, but Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, this is the first time they have come wheel to wheel on the track. And Lewis Hamilton had a cheeky look there. We don't really need that for this race. Maybe starting on the softs wasn't the best idea. And now that battle is bringing Charles Leclerc into the conversation. He's nearly a second, under a second behind Lewis Hamilton, so the DRS is going to be open, but we're saving some battery with Lewis. Let's deploy some ERS with George Russell as well. He was saving some battery just to stay in and around the second mark, and he's got DRS again, but Lewis Hamilton is gonna take another look on George Russell down the inside. Where's Charles Leclerc? He's closing again on the two Mercedes. So the strategy split has maybe created a little bit of an issue here, because the soft tires seem to have dropped off performance wise a lot quicker than I thought. Right, something has happened on lap 17. Max Verstappen has either made a mistake or his tires have dropped off a cliff performance wise. Let's take a look. 73%. No, it shouldn't be that, but he is now 2.5 seconds behind Carlos Sainz. So we've got an opportunity here with George Russell to make this move. Lewis Hamilton is behind, waiting for his opportunity, and Charles Leclerc is waiting for his just behind Lewis Hamilton. George Russell is going to deploy some ERS down this start finish straight. The battery's nearly done, so it's going to be a chance of now or never. Max Verstappen defends, looking to hold up. George Russell goes around the outside. Yes, he does, and makes the move stick. We're now going to harvest some battery, try to save it for a little bit later in the race, but that's a brilliant move there by George, who's up into P2. Lewis Hamilton has just gained a place with a beautiful move on Max Verstappen, but does he keep it with the DRS? You can see George Russell up in front. He does. That was a fantastic overtake by Lewis Hamilton. Let's look at that replay.
Now watch this. Lewis Hamilton involved in this one.
It's a brilliant move around the outside. Absolutely fantastic overtake there by Lewis Hamilton. And now both of us can push up behind Carlos Sainz. There's an Aston Martin here, which is going to give Carlos Sainz some DRS. But we are going to hope that they get out of the way and stay out of the way down this start finish straight, as George Russell is now asked to pit. We're going to ignore for now because he's absolutely flying. Lewis Hamilton was held up a little bit by the Aston Martin and now has Max Verstappen side by side with him. Can he stay in front heading into turn 1, as Charles Leclerc has pit on the soft tyre? So what we're going to do with George Russell is we are going to cover him off. We're going to pit him in now. We're going to bring him in for hard tyres. Let's see what Charles Leclerc has done, but I think the hard tyres on this Mercedes works best. Let's go back to Lewis Hamilton, who's still side by side. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton are still going side by side. Let's ride on board. Max Verstappen has managed to get P3, but interestingly, Max Verstappen doesn't have DRS now on George Russell because of that fight. Charles Leclerc has come out in P11 and he's on the mediums as George Russell comes into the pits. Lewis Hamilton now has an opportunity. We're deploying some ERS, but the ERS battery has ended. So we're going to have to do it with the DRS. Are we fast enough in a straight line? go side by side with Max Verstappen? I think we are.
So we are low on battery at the moment.
We've made that overtake very easily. We're going to harvest some battery as well with Lewis Hamilton. Right, back to George Russell. He's coming out of the pits. Does he stay in front of Charles Leclerc on the track? Or has Charles Leclerc managed a brilliant undercut here on the Mercedes, man? Out comes George Russell. Where is Charles Leclerc? He's currently coming down the start finish straight. There you can see George Russell come out just behind the Alpine of... who is it? Esteban Ocon. So George Russell has done well to clear the majority of that traffic. Charles Leclerc is behind Joe, Gasly, Bottas and Ocon, as well as George Russell now. Right, Lewis Hamilton now leads the Spanish Grand Prix on lap 24. His hard tyres have done a wonderful stint so far, as both Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen come into the pits. George Russell needs to stay within the sort of window of Max Verstappen because we need him to have DRS so that he can come to attack, as he's made a little bit of a mistake. It's been a poor lap. George Russell there has been held up majorly by an Aston Martin, and that has really ruined his attack on Max Verstappen. Can you get out of the way, Aston Martin? Who is it? I think it's Lance Stroll, and that's now allowed Charles Leclerc to close the gap on George Russell. That's so disappointing because we were around about 1.5 seconds, but he held us up and made us lose a second. Lewis Hamilton, who's out in front, he's done a massive overcut on these hard tires. He's coming in for the medium compound tire. Now, with Lewis, we have got the option of staying out for the full 36 laps on these mediums and doing a one-stopper, or coming in for softs at the end. Let's hope it's a clean pit stop. It's not. They've gone slow because of Williams has slowed us down. It's a 3.9 second stop. Where is Carlos Sainz? He's coming around the final corner now, and Max Verstappen is going to have the DRS behind him. Is he going to make this overtake? Where is Lewis Hamilton in comparison to this fight? He's there. And that pit stop by the Williams has really ruined our race. These back markers have ruined things for the Mercedes. George Russell is now behind Lewis Hamilton. And Lewis Hamilton, who was set to come out in P1, if everything went okay with the pit stop, is now 1.2 seconds behind Carlos Sainz because we couldn't release him due to that Williams coming into the pits. Right, then Lewis Hamilton has closed up into the back of Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen, the battle for the race lead. Although the slow pit stop, we've got the fresher tyres, and currently we're all on mediums. Ours are 96% worn. The guys up in front are 10% worse. George Russell, as we can see there, Carlos Sainz looking down the inside of Max Verstappen. Can we get involved in this and make it a three-way battle for the lead? Carlos Sainz takes the lead down the inside, then becomes the outside of turn 1 and 2 into turn 3 and 4 here with Carlos Sainz, and he's taking the lead ahead of Max Verstappen. George Russell then has been dropped considerably by the front three, but he is quite far ahead of Charles Leclerc, a gap of about three and a bit seconds, 3.5 seconds to Charles Leclerc, 2.5 seconds it was at the time. What we're gonna do though, I think, with George Russell is we might convert this to a one-stop strategy with George. We know that Max has to come in. We know that Sainz has to come in. We know Leclerc might not have to come in. He's done the tyre switch. But Leclerc will probably come in again for softs. I think with George Russell, for him to have a chance at winning, or for him to have a chance at a podium, a one-stop strategy might be best for him. Lewis Hamilton, he's okay on the hard tyres. Carlos Sainz has managed to get through, and he's left Max Verstappen. Again, that might have been a poor lap for Max Verstappen. Let's deploy some ERS and let's get going with Lewis Hamilton. We're not attacking with these tyres just yet. We don't need to. We're going to save them towards the end of this stint to try and get back out in front after our second pit stop. But Lewis Hamilton looks around the outside. They're coming down the start finish straight. Will he make it around the outside of Max Verstappen? These two are going wheel to wheel again. They've been battling a lot during this race, and they're still side by side. This is fantastic racing. Lewis Hamilton just behind Max Verstappen, wasn't able to make it work. Let's go to neutral on the ERS, and we'll go again at the end of the lap. But this is brilliant to see the Mercedes fighting with Max and with the Ferraris is brilliant to see. Lewis Hamilton then, DRS is open, ERS is deployed, and that is an easy overtake on Max Verstappen for P2. So now we can push up to the back of Carlos Sainz. Again, we've got the fresher tyres. Let's have a look. 92% to those leaders who are on 81%. We should now be able to get clear of Max Verstappen, break that DRS as soon as possible, and then we can close up to the back of Carlos Sainz for the race lead. Lewis Hamilton is going on aggressive with the tyres. Behind him, George Russell has now got Charles Leclerc to contend with. But again, Charles Leclerc is probably going to have to pit in at some stage. Just take a look. Charles Leclerc is in DRS range of George Russell, but our tyres are considerably better. So what we're going to do with George, we're going to go aggressive and try to keep him behind, at least for a little bit longer. But I think we are going to go onto the one-stop strategy with George Russell, because that back marker has really screwed him over and has potentially cost him the race win. Lewis Hamilton has closed the gap to Carlos Sainz, and with the DRS, it doesn't seem to be opening. I think it's a visual glitch, but he takes the race lead here in Spain. Lewis Hamilton has come alive on these medium tyres, and the overcut has worked. An absolute treat here. It's a brilliant move by Lewis Hamilton out in front. George Russell is now currently in P5, and what we're doing is we are thinking completely about the end of this race. He is probably now going to go until the end on these hard tires. He's 5.5 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez, and he doesn't have to stop again, whereas the likes of Leclerc, Verstappen and Carlos Sainz all have to come into the pits again. They're probably going to come on to soft tire. They're coming in, sorry, for soft tires, as Carlos Sainz is now battling against Lewis Hamilton once again. Is he going to try for the race lead down the inside? That is a beautiful move by Carlos Sainz. Very aggressive, pushes Lewis Hamilton wide off the track, but the race lead battle is still going on. They're side by side. This is fantastic driving again from both of them. Seeing Lewis battling with Max and then battling with Carlos Sainz is fantastic. Who's going to have the DRS? I don't know who was behind at the detection point, but Lewis Hamilton's been edged out a little bit there. That was very elbows out by Carlos Sainz, and Lewis Hamilton's dropped off beyond a second. Lewis Hamilton's on a tear, and as he sets the fastest lap of the race, he goes back in front of Carlos Sainz for the race lead. Beautiful driving there by Lewis Hamilton. Be a feature now until the end of the race, as Carlos Sainz is stuck behind Lewis Hamilton, but he's going to have the DRS. With Lewis, we are going to go on aggressive now with the tyres. If we look at the tyre wear, Carlos Sainz on 63%, Lewis Hamilton's on 71%. This Ferrari's much faster than the Mercedes in a straight line as they go side by side. Carlos Sainz has the DRS. He has the overtake easy. So the only way of us really trying to stay in front is by using our tyres and by using the ERS comfortably. Behind Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc has caught and passed Max Verstappen. The Ferrari is showing lightning pace at the minute. All right, George Russell is coming under pressure now from Sergio Perez, who is pushing his medium tyres before they box. These hard tyres are not working at this stage of the race. However, Charles Leclerc is the first one of the leaders to pit in, and he's coming on the soft compound tyre as Sergio Perez has overtaken him, driven him wide. We should have the DRS though, as we're going side by side trying to fight with Sergio Perez again. Carlos Sainz has boxed in. So now with Lewis Hamilton, we are going full attack and push, as George Russell's been pushed out again by Sergio Perez. Right, these hard tyres, we're going to try and coast to the end. What's the gap to Charles Leclerc from George Russell? Charles Leclerc is about 8 seconds behind George Russell, I think it is. The back marker there of the Aston Martin, as Lewis Hamilton is in the pits with Max Verstappen, we need this to be a good stop. We need this to be a very good stop. In he comes. On comes the soft tyre. We have to wait again. It's a 3.1 second stop for Lewis Hamilton, as George Russell now is in clean air. Can we set some time with these tyres? Let's go on attack and we'll push for a little bit as well. George Russell is currently in the lead of this race. Where is Lewis Hamilton? He is coming out just ahead of Carlos Sainz. It's worked. The problem though is Leclerc is right behind Sainz, and they've both jumped to Max Verstappen. This has now become a four-way way for the race lead. Actually, what we're going to do with Lewis Hamilton is we're going to ask to hold back cars behind. George Russell, the only way he's going to get a decent enough distance from these drivers is if Lewis Hamilton does a decent job backing the guys up. Carlos Sainz is 1.5 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton so far is doing a very good job in defending against the Ferraris, and thankfully that McLaren has done a brilliant job getting in the way of the Ferraris. All of a sudden then those hard tyres have really stopped performing, and yeah, it doesn't seem to have worked with George Russell. Lewis Hamilton is right behind him with the soft tyres, and now we kind of want George to go in clean air, but I don't think it's going to last. Lewis Hamilton then makes a move on George Russell, as does Charles Leclerc. Everyone's going to be swallowing George Russell up now as the tyres are overheating. There goes Lewis Hamilton. He is out in front and in clean air. George Russell is now fighting with Charles Leclerc. We might as well just give it everything. We're going to attack on these tyres and hope that they do give us an advantage heading towards the end of this race.
Closer look. Watch this. There's Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc was in the middle of nowhere at the start of this race, and all of a sudden he's now taken the race lead from Lewis Hamilton. This Ferrari's pace is insane, but George Russell is still keeping in contact with them in P3. This is a brilliant drive from George Russell, and the hard tyres have seemed to work at the end of this race. Looking at the tyre wear now, Lewis Hamilton's has dropped, Max Verstappen's has dropped, but George Russell's is staying consistent. As long as it doesn't hit that 30% mark, which it might do if we are unlucky, I think we could have an opportunity at staying here in P3.
We're just watching the Red Bull.
Sergio Perez locks up, but he's very lucky to keep that out of the wall. Oh, there's a crash. Kevin Magnussen's crashed. Do we have a safety car? He's going around the outside of the back marker Aston Martin, and he just goes straight on. Oh, that's a big impact. I hope Kevin Magnussen's okay with that. It was fun while it lasted with George Russell, but he's now down to P4, and Max Verstappen has overtaken him for a podium position. Out in front, Lewis Hamilton is still battling with Charles Leclerc. Let's take a look at the replay of the move on George Russell. Those soft compound tyres just seem to now be working for Max Verstappen. He's done well to save them. He's definitely pushing at this stage, and he's now up into P3. Will he close the gap onto the leaders? I'm not sure. George Russell, though, is a positive P4, but he does now have Carlos Sainz right behind him. Lewis Hamilton has lost the race lead with 3 laps to go to Charles Leclerc. It's another brilliant move by the Ferrari, but we've now given Lewis Hamilton full permission to go all-out attack to try and get this race lead back.
And that's the lockup.
George Russell has been overtaken by Carlos Sainz with 2 laps to go as Lewis Hamilton takes the race lead. I was busy watching George Russell. I didn't even see what happened with Lewis Hamilton out in front. DRS open. There's a visual glitch. It must be DRS open. It's an easy move by Lewis Hamilton, and there are 2 laps remaining now for him to see his second race win of the season. Lap 65 of 66, and Leclerc has made it past Lewis Hamilton again. Using the DRS, he makes it into turn 1 easily, and Lewis Hamilton is back down into second place. There is 1 lap left here. George Russell is keeping hold of Carlos Sainz quite comfortably, even though his tyres have dropped off pretty badly, but we're going to continue pushing. Coming down the start finish straight, the ERS battery's empty. We don't care. DRS is open. We're now going to start harvesting, and Charles Leclerc is in second place. Lewis Hamilton is in first. We have got the race lead on the final lap of the race. George Russell has now been dropped by Carlos Sainz. He's going to come home in P5. Let's just conserve the tyres and make sure he comes home in one piece. But our race now is for the lead with Charles Leclerc. As we look behind us, they are so neck and neck, and Charles Leclerc has driven a brilliant race to just even be in this conversation. I have no idea how he managed to do it. We're going to deploy some more battery with Lewis Hamilton to try and stay in front of him. We have to watch out though for the fuel. We don't want to be caught out with that. Lewis Hamilton is pushing and pushing. Here comes Charles Leclerc. He's going to look down the inside. It's the final lap. He's brilliantly driven there. It's brilliant defensive driving from Lewis Hamilton. We're going to use ERS to defend. And what are we going to do coming around the last corners with Charles Leclerc, the championship leader, who started down in P5 or 6 following an awful qualifying session? Can we keep him in front of us as the DRS detection zone comes? Lewis Hamilton's running away. Is he going to pass the checkered flag? Our battery's gone, but the lap is finished. The race is over. Lewis Hamilton wins in Spain, in Catalonia. A fantastic strategy call once again from the team, gets Lewis Hamilton his second race win of the season, and he brings it home in one piece ahead of championship leader Charles Leclerc. I thought that George Russell would have had a better chance at winning this race with his strategy, but unfortunately he was held up at the wrong time by Aston Martin, which really messed up his race. Charles Leclerc comes home in second place. Max Verstappen takes a third step on the podium. Carlos Sainz in fourth. George Russell with a brilliant drive to finish in fifth place, considering he was the only person, I think, to one stop. Yeah, he was. Even people 3 stopped. Sergio Perez finished in sixth place. And the 2 Alpines in 7th and 8th, Valtteri Bottas in 9th. So the Alpines have done very well there on their upgrades to finish comfortably ahead of Valtteri Bottas. And good to see McLaren in the points. Lando Norris in P10. There you have it then. Lewis Hamilton comes home to finish first at the Spanish Grand Prix. Max Verstappen takes an extra point for the fastest lap of the race. Charles Leclerc finishing in second after starting in P5 after a poor qualifying session by his standards. Drivers standings wise, Charles Leclerc currently out in front comfortably with Carlos Sainz in second place, but following his second race win of the season in a Mercedes that isn't fully up to scratch, Lewis Hamilton is now up into P3 ahead of both of the Red Bull drivers. And George Russell, who was very unlucky today, I thought we had a fantastic strategy and he started that race brilliantly on that soft compound of tyre. Unlucky not to get a race win or a podium in this race. I think he deserved to. Constructors wise, we've closed the gap a little bit onto Red Bull, but the Ferrari team are absolutely flying at the minute. We're way ahead of Alpine, who have now kind of opened a bit of a gap to Alfa Romeo in that midfield battle for P4 and P5. But thank you so much for watching. Looking at the sponsorship, Lewis Hamilton gets his bonus for winning the race. Probably not the best time to mess up the sponsorship incomings, but I just want to say once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed another episode of the F1 Manager 22 Save. If you are new around here, hit the subscribe button. If you aren't already, consider liking the video if you are enjoying the content. And until the next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you for the next video.